Hey everybody, I'm Joe Killinger. I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur, and we put these videos together every week to give you all the tips and insights from my experience over the last several years. So make sure you tune in and subscribe, and thank you. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I've got a very special guest today, Natalie Virem. Natalie has been, I guess your background is entrepreneurship, correct?
Entrepreneurship and education for entrepreneurs, yes.
Okay. And so I ran into Natalie in an event that her foundation was sponsoring, and I asked her to come in and talk because my conversation with her it just got to be very interesting, and I was really hogging her from everybody else. So I wanted to share this time with you guys, and so that's why you subscribe, correct? So Natalie, you're a professor at a couple of colleges, correct?
So I do, on a very minimal basis, teach entrepreneurship to business students, yes.
Published author.
Yes, best-selling author.
And a foundation for entrepreneurs.
So I have a for-profit for entrepreneurs and a non-profit foundation for entrepreneurs.
Okay, because almost everybody that subscribed here is an entrepreneur of some form. Either they are a real estate investor or they're wanting to be a real estate agent, which I maybe want to rethink that, maybe stick with real estate investing. But why don't you, it's, there's a fine line, between real estate and entrepreneurship, because almost everybody that's in real estate has got to be entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
so,
you need to have at least that mindset.
Yeah.
So really in that particular case, all you have to shift if you don't have it is the mindset. So the mindset of an entrepreneur is very different than the mindset of an employee. So by mindset, I mean you're someone who thinks outside the box. You're someone who is self-pushed. You don't need people to guide you or tell you what to do. You just, do it yourself, right? So
self-motivated.
Right, you're self-motivated. Yeah. And the way you think is also very different. You don't think like most people. You have to actually think the opposite at times, right? Because you have to find what is it that makes you unique and different than everybody else. And therefore you become what's called a leader. You have to be a leader, not a follower.
Yeah, you really see that, especially the people, I get both sides with the real estate agents and the real estate investors. The people who are highly successful in investing are always looking for a way to do better the next investment. What can I be doing? They're not just looking at the numbers like, oh, this is a good investment. Okay, this is a good investment. But what if I added more square footage? What if I added parking? What if I added, another amenity? They're always looking for the one-upsmanship of their last investment. So definitely you have to be an entrepreneur. So, you brought something in, but you can't really be an employee mindset in commercial real estate or actually in real estate and brokerage and investing. How do you know if you are in fact an entrepreneur or not?
So that's a great point. There's ways you can identify how close you are to that mindset, and is by knowing if you are the type of person that is self-directed versus not, if you're comfortable with risk versus not, if you think the opposite of most people, or if you just follow the norm. So rule breakers, things like those. Now, these are just, certain things you can think of, but that doesn't mean that even if you're none of the above, that you can't become an entrepreneur. So becoming an entrepreneur is actually a mindset that you can build up on. You could be born without the mindset of an entrepreneur, and actually most people, that's how they're born with. Why? Because society makes them employees. The educational system makes them employees. What people tell you to do is really to have the employee mindset. And so through time, maybe that's all you know, but that doesn't mean that you can't become an entrepreneur at heart. All you have to truly do is change your mindset. So I think that identifying how close you are to that mindset is key, but not just identifying, but also what is it that can help me get one step closer to the true, real leader and entrepreneur in me, meaning the person who gets the answer from themselves, in themselves, for themselves, and no one else.
You know, something that you said just kind of hit risk.
Yes.
You know, if you talk to any entrepreneur about risk, they typically believe in themselves so much that, you know, risk it's kind of an afterthought. They just know they're going to go out and be successful. Now, sometimes they shouldn't. I mean, I'm addicted. Do you ever watch the TV show The Prophet? On
The
CBC?
Prophet?
Yeah.
No.
What a great show. It's actually more of a, for me, it's more of a class because
Okay.
it really walks you through this guy, Marcus Lemonis. The show's incredible. If you haven't been watching, you really should if you want to be an entrepreneur, because you're going to see a lot of things that you should and a lot more things that you shouldn't be doing. You know, you've got to know your numbers. You know, some
yeah.
of these people that start these companies don't really know their numbers or their margin. I mean, it's pretty amazing to me. But if you ask a lot of these people, risk is something they really, you have to really look at that. You know, how much risk are you really willing to take? And a good entrepreneur just believes in themselves so much that, you know, well, I'll get there, well, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Because an entrepreneur, you know, we're jumping off the cliff and we're building the plane on the way down, you know. So maybe not the smartest move, but, you know, if you have to truly believe in yourself to really be a good entrepreneur. So now, why don't you walk us through your path? How did you get to your book? Let's talk a little bit about the book that you put out.
Yeah, so great question. So my path actually was kind of that path from employee to entrepreneur.
You got bored and you just decided, I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
Well, actually, I was kind of like pushed towards it.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. I did what everybody tells you to do. Get a degree, get a master's degree, get a good job, work for a 500 company, Kaiser Permanente, right? Become a manager, life is good, right? All the things that people tell you. And what happened in my particular case is my mom had cancer and was dying in 2014. And I would say for me personally, seeing my mother die and seeing her not fulfilling her dreams triggered me to think about, well, what about my dreams? Am I really, right? I have a life. She doesn't. So am I honoring my dreams? Well, no, I'm not. I felt like a gap in me with who I wanted to be, where I wanted to be, and where I was. And so I realized that I'm just getting this equation wrong. So I actually ended up hiring a career coach.
Oh, okay.
And through the process, I don't know, it was very organic. He said, why don't you do a coaching training? I said, why not for fun? I invested on my 10 grand coaching training because my company didn't want to pay for it. I found my life purpose. Through the process, I turned that life purpose into a business, which was a coaching, consulting business for entrepreneurs and leaders. And then the idea of the book came immediately for me, which was putting together, you know, kind of my story, my process. I wrote it in 2 weeks.
You wrote the entire book in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks. Now, it took me 6 months to figure out how to promote it. That was actually the harder part. But writing the book came so natural to me. I guess I had it in me for so long, then I just like put it in written.
Poured it out of you, yeah.
Right. And everybody has a different process, I'm sure, but for me it was very organic. Now, promoting the book was the hardest part, but it still hit bestseller on 10 self-help and business categories immediately. And I think that was the beginning of my journey. Okay, I am ready to be an entrepreneur. I am an outside thinker. I am, you know, driven by leading, not following. And so I feel a lot more comfortable and natural in that state.
Do you know, your story kind of, there's got to be a large number of people that are entrepreneurs, but they just are, you know, that every 2 weeks that paycheck coming in keeps them from, do you see that a lot?
You see that a lot because being an entrepreneur, right, is you being on your own. So there's a lot of benefits, but there's also a lot of risks you have to be willing to take.
Right.
And it would be delusional to think that you can become an entrepreneur and hit $1 million in 1 week, right? That would be delusional. So it's a process. It takes time to build your brand, especially if you want it sustainable. So I always, you know, recommend that you have more of a pull technique rather than a push technique. So a pull technique takes time to build. It takes time to build your brand. It takes time to build, you know, unique product or service that people are going to be drawn to. without spending too much money then on the marketing, which is ultimately what you want. You don't want to spend money on marketing. You just want people to be drawn to what you have to offer. But that takes time.
Yeah.
And so there are chances that you may have to, twinkle in between a part-time job and entrepreneurship, or find a way at the beginning, right, to find the funds, right, access funds that will help you hit, the period of time that's going to take you to grow your business. But ultimately, you have to be comfortable with knowing that you're not going to have a paycheck every week. That's the reality of being an entrepreneur, to understand that at times you're going to be up and at times you're going to be down in your account, and you have to be comfortable with that. Now, that doesn't mean that you take, delusional risk, because you may take it at first and then you'll hit the bottom so hard that you'll realize that what you have to take is what's called calculated risk, right?
Yeah.
And you'll learn through the process. So a few things need to happen. One, you need to get comfortable with risk, and the other thing is you need to be smart about how you take the risk.
Yeah, because you've probably seen over the last couple of years, you've seen a big change in the big tech, especially here in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's like, hustle, work 20 hours a day, sleep 4 hours a day, get up and do it again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
The last year and a half, you haven't heard that very much. Everybody's now is kind of cycled around to make sure you're getting, 7-8 hours sleep, make sure your, side hustle is something you don't really hear anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that long ago that was a big conversation everybody's having, what's your side hustle? And, but there was so much risk going on then. People were, I would almost say, almost over leveraging themselves. They're going out and getting money that they were, they had a product that really wasn't going to be set for the masses. Yet they're out there raising money. And then they find themselves in a lot of debt. And so really, make sure before you go down this path that you financially are able to get down this. And, taking loans out to go out and launch something is something that, maybe build it slower.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about, you look at some of these tech companies that are out there now, they're not going to make money for some time, and they've burned through hundreds of millions of dollars. And, it's got to be very, very calculated. Completely agree.
And step by step and organic.
Make sure there's a product
right.
market fit. It's just
Right.
if you've got something, there's, I don't know, do they even say pivot anymore? Don't be afraid to pivot. Find something that people want. And, just be smart about how you're going to market. What's the number one thing when you were getting yourself out there? What's the number one thing you thought felt like it got you going?
Well, the number one thing is, for me, if I hadn't found my life purpose, I would have probably quit a long time ago, right? Yeah. And it doesn't mean that that's all you need in business, right? You need profitability as well. You probably need both, a balance in the equation. You need purpose and you need profit. But you have to be in both ways very consistent on your approach. So you have to find something that is so powerful in your heart that it will get you through the hard times, right? Which is the purpose. So with my clients, I always nail that one first, because without purpose, it will never sustain and you will never succeed, in my opinion. Or you will not succeed at the level that you're capable to succeed. And it will show at some point through your entrepreneurial journey, either through lack of funds or lack of fulfillment. It doesn't matter. So I would say tackle that one first. Get very aligned with your purpose in life and how that is easily, transitionable into a business vision. How is your life purpose aligned with your business vision? And then, of course, you have to make it profitable. But profitable at all levels, and it's more about prosperity. Not just on a financial way, but on the resources, the employees, the abundance, the brand reputation. It's more about what I would call abundance rather than profitability. So you have to get to a point, I think, as an entrepreneur, to truly understand what abundance is, and not just profitability, but abundance. And again, I think it has a lot to do with you going step by step, but doing the work. And instead of doing a lot, it's more about doing less, but doing it, in a very efficient way. So doing, least amount of input with the highest amount of output, which is what most companies always ask you to do anyways. So if you're able to truly get to that equation, I think that at that point, you're going to nail the most important thing about entrepreneurship, in my opinion. And that's just my personal journey. It doesn't mean that it was the journey of other entrepreneurs.
You know, what do you say to an entrepreneur that comes when you ask them, why do you want to go down this road? And they say, to make money. I
tell them, well, I suggest that you strongly look back at the underlying reason. Of course you want to make money, but is there another reason why you're drawn towards being in real estate, right? Or doing whatever it is that you're doing. If there is no connection, no link, it will, in my opinion, eventually break apart.
Yeah.
So I think you have to find, your connection to the story of your business. So my connection to the story of my business is my own journey. Right? I failed to find my purpose. I failed to, get aligned, and now I can help others, find their purpose and turn that into a business vision, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, if you don't have the passion for what you're doing, and there's going to be a point where there's going to be a slowdown in what you're doing, and if you don't truly have the passion, you're just in it for the money. It's going to be awfully hard on that Monday morning.
Painful. Yeah, very painful.
To get up and come to work and show up and be the true leader if you have employees. It's going to be tough to do that if you don't have the passion for it. You have to have the passion. If this is something you think is just going to make you a lot of money, chances are it's probably not going to work out for you. And so passion, I think, has got to be one of the number one.
Is number one. And I mean, we can give an example of something very recent. So the death of Kobe Bryant, right? We all know how passionate he was about playing basketball.
Yep.
Don't we?
Yep.
Now, when we look at his career, was he successful? Extremely successful. Now, how did he become so successful? Was it the skills he had? No, he wasn't taller than others.
Right.
He wasn't more skilled than others. It's his passion for the game that made him successful. And he was probably even willing, he was definitely not doing it for the money, because I would say he was probably most likely willing to pay out of his pocket to be playing some of those games. So if you think about your business, if you think, I'm willing to pay and invest in my business to get it to where it is, then it's probably the right path for you.
Yeah,
it's connected.
Even his investments he's doing here the last few years, he would say if he ran into an investor that didn't, or a leader that didn't have the passion for what they were doing, he wasn't interested in investing.
He wasn't interested.
He really went after, they have to have the passion for what they're doing. Yeah. Just like we were saying, if you don't have it, you're going to burn out at some point. And as an investor looking at that, if somebody says to him it's all about the money, then he wouldn't invest with them. And so, and he's done very well with that. Or his company's done very well with that. So, it really, being an entrepreneur is a great way to go. I think, the past few years it probably got overhyped a little bit. It's kind of a bit more down to reality now. And, there's a lot of opportunity out there. If you're a creative thinker, you have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and you're willing to do the work, you can make a lot of money. And I mean, we're all real estate focused. We do real estate investing and brokerage. And, it really, I love it. I mean, I do it. I do counseling or mentoring with other people. I do it for free just because I love to do it.
Because you love it so much.
Yeah, I love to do it. And I love to see them taking my experience and going out and, and learning from it. I may have had some failures, they might as well learn from it. And so, I just love doing it that much. That's why I do this every day.
Right.
So that, and I get to run into people like you.
Yes, I know.
They get me all jazzed up. Now I got to go do something out there. Natalie, why don't you tell us, how can they get hold of your book?
So I suggest that they go to natalievirem.org, which is the URL or website of our foundation. And then there they can simply click through the contact information, and I will guide them to the Amazon. The book is called Live with Purpose. It's available on Amazon. And if they prefer, I'm happy to give them a free PDF to get them going with the book, Live with Purpose.
Okay, you know what we're going to do is we'll take on the YouTube channel, we'll put the link to this stuff. So we'll get this from you, we'll put it, so
faster.
Check down below. Do check in next week. Every Wednesday we put these videos out. Do subscribe, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you, Natalie, for coming in.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you, folks.
Thank you.